So we're down to the wire. This is our last session of the retreat.
I gotta ask something really good. I can.
You think, is that ever happenstance? So I know this has been a whammy. I mean, sitting here immersed in this stuff for 2 straight days is pretty much of a pretty dizzying, shall we say. But is there any of this for any of you that there's like, but I don't get, is there any aspect of it like, wait a minute, but what about, any particularly major issues or major aspects of it that somehow is a piece of the puzzle that's just not even fitting in or even on the table?
You don't have to necessarily feel good for it to be doing its thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
In fact, yoga has the peculiar property of often making the shit hit the fan, both in terms of how you feel and even situationally in the outside world. It can mix things up big time and all sorts of levels. But that's the very nature of the symptom of the transformation that it affects. Seemingly. I mean, this is not a theoretical thing, it's just my observation that typically people can get put through the mill when they bite into this stuff well.
It's your fault.
No, I'm not. I ain't forcing anyone to do anything. I may be an enabler, but I am not doing this. Yeah.
It's really true. After I went to that retreat in Joshua Tree, so I thought I was like, this is it because I'm new to it, So, and really what I'd done was stop telling myself stories for a little bit. And then like a month later, I was like really deep into it and it was like weird, and then my life was just getting lived. And then somewhere in between there, was going to be my next question is, I mean, I know it's all radiant essence, but then started finding their way to me.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, well, yeah, you're radiant presence, but you're scary as hell,
Yeah.
So I guess it doesn't, like,
Yeah, you're I mean, the whole thing is just endlessly weird. And what you're experiencing on one level, say on the level of the personality, and what you're experiencing on other levels just doesn't seem to have a whole lot to do with each other. But, it's all the same thing. Radiance can look like anything itself. So it doesn't matter what it looks like. And let yourself there, and you'll see that it's not what it seems to be, what you think it is.
and that you're not really vulnerable to it.
Yeah, you're not vulnerable to anything. You are ready. Something. But what's about to hit you, you are that too. So it's like a light hitting light. It's a.
Yeah, that would be like another fuck it moment, where you're kind of held up in the duality of.
So it's like an explosion in the dream. It's not going to actually blow anything up in mind, and it seems terrifying, but there's nothing for it to hit. Now, this is interesting to touch on. It's fairly obvious, but it can really sort of rub our noses in it. Anything, it can seem to be very light and bright and brilliant and open. It can seem to be very dark and close and heavy and evil and twisted. Whereas where the force has a light side and the dark side, that's the radiance. It can look like anything. It goes anywhere. there's no value assessment within it at all. It's all perfect transcendental reality. Whatever it looks like. It's like a dream. You can dream anything you want, but it's still just a dream. Dream, and it never has any importance whatsoever what it looks like. You're free to try and navigate within it to go towards the areas that you like. You can, if you develop that kind of artfulness. Gain anything if you succeed, and you don't actually lose anything if you fail. Okay? Within a successful yoga, it'll start to happen experientially. The voice of wisdom right there is that.
We were talking about orientation last time,
Mhm.
earlier, and it should shift your orientation.
No shit about it. It will shift your orientation.
Yeah, right. So, and that creates problems.
May.
Huh?
Yeah, may. It creates difference.
A difference that has problems.
Yeah, sure. But again, whether or not it's a problem is an interpretation.
Right.
In that case, do more yoga. And again, when there's problems, you don't need to do yoga on the problems. Go somewhere in your experience where it's easy and do it there by seeing through them.
So in doing this yoga, you're like basically like consciousness is extricating itself, and
Yes.
you're able to kind of almost
It's more simple and more powerful than that.
Yeah.
Consciousness is recognizing that it never was not extricated. That's it.
But I remember when I was first hearing you talking about dodging and going somewhere else. I was actually, you were saying before, like, I'm doing it in order to get away from this horrible feeling or this.
Right,
so
which is doomed to failure, because
Exactly.
you're actually making it bigger. You're tying
Exactly.
yourself to it more strongly.
Yeah, so that was kind of it's kind of tricky.
It's
you
subtle.
really have to go somewhere else. I mean, really have to go somewhere else.
Subtle, yeah. Well, you have to go somewhere else, but not to get away from something.
Right, yeah, right.
Just go somewhere else arbitrarily. Fix it. Oh, what's going on over there?
Okay.
Not. I gotta get away from it. It just out of the blue, just like the distraction is your friend.
It's a pattern interrupt kind of thing.
Interrupt this.
I think I'm saying this mostly right, that nothing causes anything because each moment is completely discrete.
Yes.
Hard to seeing actuality, it's not hard to,
Right.
it's one.
Because it's not rational, and of course you only grasp things with rational thought process. And the way it functions is not rational. Nothing whatsoever about it is rational. Because tilts and heads back to you fool, you got sucked into delusion. This is your life, and this is cause and effect, and this is you stuck in situations. Not true. And the evidence is always the obvious fact that this makes no sense. Well, this isn't instantaneous.
Were you ever so awestruck that the awe got in the way?
I don't know. It's hard to know what in the way means. I certainly have been and very often am completely unbelievably awestruck. You know, I've often been sitting with tears streaming down my face. Just this is so mind blowing. I mean, the more clearly you see what it's like, the more mind blowing it is. It's exponentially more that, and then exponentially more, and exponentially more, and exponentially more forever. I mean, it doesn't get in the way because itself, you know, the awesomeness is not an impediment. The awesomeness is the result. It's the thing itself. It's the goal. To get in the way of itself. You know, it only gets in the way if you try to turn it into something like, boy, this is really special. God, this is fabulous. You know, I got to try and hold this, or I got to try and remember this, or I got to try and whatever. Basically, it starts to seduce back into stories.
There's a spontaneous breath.
Oh, and that's fine. Expressible. I mean, look at me. I've been talking for 2 days, and nothing I'm saying is actually true, because it's impossible to say the truth. Hopefully, it's artful and evocative and entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
It's all exactly that. It's my song of the incredible beauty and joy of this thing I've discovered, that others may be interested in sharing it. It fails utterly, is irrelevant. Because here it is. It's like, again, it's that parallel thing. Mind's failure is always right here, cruising right along with the inconceivable actuality. So even the mind's failure doesn't really get in the way of anything.
What's really radical about your approach is that spirituality is on hate. It's hating this feeling of I hate. That's the sort of this turd in the middle of my experience. You know, hating, and trying to change it. Appreciation. That's all. Period. Appreciating.
Yeah, totally.
Totally different orientation.
Turn the other fucking cheek. You probably didn't say that. Say fucking in Aramaic.
Make me want to learn the Sanskrit cuss words.
I know, right? Me too. That's a constant running joke for me. You know, it's like, God, how do you say that in Sanskrit? It always gets a chuckle. It's really a good one. In certain crowds, you know. Which kind of crowds I typically tend to hang out in. So there you go.
I know one story. It's,
Sam fucking Sam.
Yeah, these stickers on this wall, and I asked somebody what they meant. It was this Devanagari script, and then
Bumper. Lay off the mention.
Well, in Hebrew in the Bible, when the same verb for to know is to fuck.
That's why the Bible gets all of this. And he knew, you know.
Yeah.
And so knew so and so.
Exactly.
Knew.
know, you disappear.
Well, it's actually profound.
Real self.
This is actually profound in yoga. This is why there's all of these pictures of principles shown as a couple in intercourse, because the union of consciousness and form, the union of sensitivity with transcendence, it's sexual. It's more sexual than sex. Sex grew out of that, not the other way around. You know, I mean, obviously there have been traditions, tantra and all that, where the sexual aspect of that is very heavy-handedly emphasized. Union, this things that seem to be separate ending up being a unity, dancing together without the separate element necessarily being negated or canceled. It's this endless, whirling around of infinite around its unity. Very poetic.
And fun.
Not to get political again, but it could be why sex has been demonized for 2,000 years. Because it would keep you from allowing yourself to kind of go to that experience with reality.
Sure. Yeah, and the same thing with intoxicants and so on and so forth. All sorts of extreme behaviors, because again, it takes you outside of normalcy, and the power structure of society wants to keep people in normalcy because then they're manipulatable. Thinkers around here, please. Something for themselves, Jesus. That would be horrible. Who knows what would happen? Fake news. What we're saying is the truth.
Like along the lines of what you're saying, because that's kind of like the work I was into before I got pulled to a non-dual path, was your consciousness in order to change reality, like the code of human. And I work at that level. And like when you judge someone, it's almost like you're collapsing reality's expression. It can't be new, right? It would just be.
You're collapsing something that's transcendental and irrational and indefinable and infinite, seemingly limited and coherent, and which just doesn't work. You're not actually collapsing the thing. You're creating a caricature of it. Caricature. It's like a stick figure. Figure of you, and say, this is you. It's like, well, it doesn't really capture the fine points, does it? See what any interpretation is. Interpretation creates these stick figures.
It's painful, right?
Well, it is because it by implication it cuts you off from the full luscious nourishment that presence actually is. This is the life force. All that is here is life. Radiant presence is the life force. You are open with it, engaged with it, let's say, the more you are, your whole being is all the cylinders are firing kind of thing. There's nothing but life. This is pure liveness. Matter. It's just life.
Express an appreciation for you that I didn't think could be put into words, or that even thing that needed to be done. And
I don't know if it needs to be done. The arguments could be made. Some have accused me of talking too much.
The other sort of non-dual teachings that I've been exposed to, whether you would, but they focus on, to use, you know, the artwork on the Shiva element as the where to go, as the entirety.
Yeah. Visualize it. How is that non-dual? Please explain to me. If there's a this, go to that. How is that non-dual?
Well, the way I would understand it now is that that was a emphasis at a certain part where then it would embrace.
That's a nice, generous saving from you. But why need to save it? Why not just spill the beans? It's all it. This is it. No holds barred. Everything comes with the kitchen sink. Yeah, bring it on.
It's back to what I said at the beginning. It's like I didn't know.
Well, I don't know that either. I just pretended it can.
Well,
I seem to be pretty convincing. Maybe I'm just a good hypnotist, you know.
Just accept the compliment.
Yeah, really.
One who speaks through this body, thanks you. I think that was my round.
In looking at the thought, there seems to be the supposed content of the thought, the interpretation, and then the other side of it, which is just
right
presence of the thought. But that differentiation only seems to be possible from of the interpretation,
right,
which is already impossible, but an impossibility.
Yeah, but there's a trick to it.
Yeah.
Is itself of the energy. So so here's the energy of let's call it the carrier wave of just the presence of thought stream, the presence of thought energy. Going by, let's say. Not, but kind of. Here's the conceptual content. Now, it's not content doesn't exist, because obviously it exists, or how on earth does the mind seize on it and churn it out? The content is another energy stream.
I heard it put as content and context.
Sure, that's a good way to put it. Anyhow, the point is that it's just not true. The fallacy is that a concept refers to anything. That's the mistake. Nothing refers to anything. Everything coexists as an integral unity. In other words, so I say, here's a thought computer, and here's this object, and I can claim concept refers to this. What does refer mean? The concept appears, the object appears in my experience. They appear, they coexist as aspects of the infinite continuum. Other than that, any more than disappearing and these sounds happening, disappearing and the sculptures are hanging there. They coexist, and in that coexistence, they are one. They are infinitely interconnected and interrelated to anything else. Everything is uniquely itself. What you have is uniquely itself. The object that it claims to refer to is uniquely itself, but they have nothing to do with each other. The language is not, conceptuality is not referential. That's the big fallacy.
Reference can't even refer to itself.
There's no such thing as reference. So there's an idea that claims to refer to reference. Reference is reference.
So you're saying that things appearing are seemingly random, but the experience is real.
Not random. Not random at all, but yes, the experience is real, and there's nothing but experience. So the things that are appearing is just an artifact of the experience itself. The things appearing, and that's a concept which is not accurate. It seems to be appearing, but nothing is actually appearing. Like in a dream, there and things are going on, there's things there, people there, whatever, right? So there's the dream happening, appearing. You don't have to tidy up all the things that were in the dream. Nothing was created, nothing appeared. It just seemed to be there. There are no things in the dream, even though it looks like there's things. There's no things here, even though it looks like there's things. Exactly the same way. That's why when you go to sleep, all this disappears with no muss, no fuss, no residue. This is gone forever, no muss, no fuss, no residue. You wake up in the morning and all just appears bang in one shot. When you wake up, it's not like, well, this appears and then this appears and this appears. Bang! It's all there at once. It's not, it looks as if it might be things, and the mind is expert in interpreting it as if it's things. Separate one thing from another. I can't take you and lift you out of my field of vision and have you over here and the rest of my vision here. The whole field comes with you. There are ways to make the whole field go away. You think that's funny?
Respect, please.
Fucked up in a really good way.
Fucked up in a really good way. I like that. That's so good.
Do you think, you'd be able to like talk about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna walk out the door and, be a normal 28-year-old girl, but I'm just gonna be noticing it more, And so, I don't know, probably because I read a lot of spiritual books in the midst of all this. You think you're gonna become like this certain type of being, but nothing changes.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
You're still you exactly, but you discover you're a being of infinite transcendental light.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really a change because you always were. You just may not have recognized that.
Mm-hmm.
And for real, I mean, everything disappears, everything changes, but absolutely nothing changes because it disappeared. And it already is different.
Yeah, I guess like there's just no guarantee there's going to be no outstanding trait you're going to acquire or anything.
No. It looks the way it looks, and it's unpredictable. That as yoga develops, which can show up in various ways. But it's unpredictable how that is. Again, that's down to your nature. The way the being that you are, your potentialities will tend to flower dependent upon the being that you are. Different beings, so they have different potentialities which will flower in the way that they. Yeah. But by and large, realization, let's say, improves one's functionality in unpredictable ways.
Like specific markers, like what they tell you to look for.
Nah, that's all the mythology.
Mm-hmm.
It's all stories too.
I want to try to unpack being of transcendental light.
Good luck.
At first I try to say it.
Good luck with that.
It seems like that might be that is the field that experience shows up in, or the showing up in itself, or
It is the field of experience that is you. To translate it into Peter Brown speak, it is radiant presence. Being of transcendental light is radiance, and being is presence. But all that's irrelevant, because who gives a shit? The point is what it is, not how you put it. You know, and it is what it is, and it's discoverable what it is, and it's clearly displayed what it is. And then you see what it is, and then you have the reality how you put it or anyone else puts it. You know, you can call me an arrogant buffoon, the divine. So.
Whatever that is.
Well, it is exactly what it is. Divine has all sorts of implication, which, like any implication, is absurd. Mm-hmm.
It's not knowing that you are is the delusion.
Yep. A little bit more on the development of realization. When you realize you are a light, you have to take advantage of that fact. Light has some very interesting properties in terms of how it reacts with itself. So then you discover you participate with the field of light non-linearly and transcendentally in very interesting ways. Phenomena and things like that may seem to manifest in various ways. But it's all just you know, ramifications of increased sensitivity. Because again, it's nothing new. It's not a new condition. It's just into what you are and always have been.
I have the experience of when I'm around, I tend to feel more of this space.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of it you could say is a matter of suggestion, and some of it you could say is a matter of resonance. Because again, a bona fide realized person, what you might call an expanded aura, or you know, an energy, an engagement with energy and non-linearly, that enables an intimate contact, you know, without strings attached or without, you know. I mean, a lot of that is why anything, if it happens at these kinds of meetings, if it does, it's not necessarily just my glib, insightful words. Energy dance that happens here. That isn't exactly how it happens, is not amenable to, but nonetheless it is that. But of course everything's an energy dance, so that's nothing new. One who knows that it is and engages in it it's very participatory. Laying around, you may knock into something, but if you reach out and touch something, you can move it.
Yoga. This God radiance. An understanding of it. Encapsulate. The question within.
Well, there's an important point about all of that. Remove.
What?
It is at zero remove. There is no separation. There is no distance between experience and the energy of experience, between anything and anything else. Look at it. What terms you want to look at it in. So it is an engagement. To feed back on itself, which is why it becomes the transformation of yoga, or the development of wisdom and subtlety and experience. Presents are kind of interesting. I talk about it that way, and obviously this radiance in this present, and it's like, well, okay, cool. So it seems like the sort of two sides of a coin or something. Same thing, but in strange ways. If you picture the image of, like, say, a snake eating its tail, sort of a circle when there's grabbing like this and it's going around. So if you start where the biting is happening and follow around the tail, and you go around, you get the presence. The other way, you go around, you get the radiance. You actually never leave the circle, but from one direction it looks like this, and from another direction it looks like that. Radiance, I really mean, I kind of can't separate it out, but let's just say, I mean all of the expression, all of the and infinite, elements of energy consciousness that shows up as experience. And by presence, this inconceivable spark, this inconceivable zap of isness that is here. And all the energies have their being from the isness.
Right.
Always shows up as all of these energies. So they're one. It's one. It's like that. And so the dance of yoga is looking at that, and it does. Probably the weirdest thing about all this is that reality is infinitely differentiated within itself from itself.
Right.
It doesn't become anything other than reality, but all this, you know, it's completely irrational. There's no way to wrap your head around that. There's no way to make sense of it. True. It's absolutely a fact that that's the case. And so this is a continual paradox of infinite variation, infinite variety, infinite extension, infinite spread. Just this. And that's and they're the same. They're this. Yeah. You know.
The poor mind wants to know.
Yeah, oh yeah. Of course the mind bangs its head against it and spouts bullshit forever, you know, but same old, same old. One of the reasons it's useless and impossible to actually talk about is paradox. So the only way you can try to talk about it is to talk about it in terms of pairs of opposites or something, which makes it seem as if it's two things. But it's not one thing either. It's weirder than that. It's one that is two and two that are one without there being a one or a two. Paradox again. You know, there's no way. Radiant presence has a real rough sort of a image of this impossible paradox that is.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about you are being of light or playing in this energy field?
Mm-hmm.
Almost like finding, you know, your autonomy in this experience, and you can start to like. I don't really talk about this. Let's see if I can put this in the words. But you start realizing your level of influence in like worldly events and things, and can like experience or realizing your presence. You can change what appears in that.
Maybe. Maybe yes, maybe no. Dream. You know, maybe you can steer your dreams, maybe you can't. But whether or not you do, the important and powerful fact is it's just a dream.
Appearing within the.
And even if you did, if suppose you change your dream, it's still just a dream. You haven't gained anything. And if you don't change your dream, it's still just a dream. You haven't lost anything. Presenting everything and start running everything and have a master plan. Okay, cool. So what? It's like changing your shoes. You know, it looks different, but it's the same thing. So, you know, you haven't gained anything. It's just an art form.
With it is realizing that that's not, like you said, achieving it.
It is whatever you do is just an art form. It's not something whereby you're actually getting anything or losing. What do? They do whatever they do. Basically manifest their inclination. There's nothing gained by doing it. That's called liberation. You're free. You're free if it matters. It doesn't matter what you do, so what do you do? What would you do if it didn't matter? Whatever you did. On the world, hey, how about it? Why not? Someone's got to do it, right? If you are running the world, you're doing a very peculiar job. Okay, whoever out there is doing all this, I question your taste.